So you're going to go ahead and try to actually create a composable using the factory pattern, because a singleton will not make sense for a fetch function, right? You're gonna have a new URL you're probably parsing, and basically, from what you've seen in the code base with the fetch, see how much you can refactor it, how far you want to get. As if anyone has ever written their own fetch function, you probably know it's a very deep rabbit hole of like configuration of methods and stuff. So my offering to you is just keep it simple to start, right? If you only get as far as like getting the response and JSONifying it and that's it, like that's still something. Do not try to like write a full-fledged fetch function. There are people who are very good at that, and they do that for us already. This is more so for the practice than anything else. So what we're going to do, I mentioned this earlier in the exercise, but we're just going to do a simplified version of fetch because, again, it's a pretty complicated one. And then I did realize later on when I was updating that we had done already a lot with the use week composable. So in the event you're looking for extra credit or one practice, the use task composable is one that doesn't really use the store design pattern because we ended up kind of using that as the model. So if you're looking for an additional practice, feel free to do that. But let's go ahead and just take a look at what a used fetch composable might look like. So as we can see here, if we're looking at the code base, there is a lot of native fetch happening. And so the goal with the use fetch composable, when I asked this, and this, my apologies for not being clear with this, is less so that we're not necessarily trying to replicate the fetch API itself, but if we're taking a look at kind of what's happening, it's fairly consistent in the sense that, like, let's see, in this one, for example, it's fetching 2 weeks. It has some custom options regarding a post in the app, like the format type. But then it always stringifies the week, and then it like checks that the response is okay and throws an error. This pattern is fairly consistent. We see it here as well with the fetch weeks. Here we go, fetch API base URL weeks. If response is not okay, throw error. Then await that the fetch weeks is JSON, and then basically this is what we want, right? They're like, this is what I want to return. So the idea here is, I think a simplified version of use fetch would probably package something like this all together so that it just returns exactly what we want at the end of it. So the way I would go about this, is actually, let me just go ahead and copy this while I'm at it since I'm already in here, is we'll go inside of our composables folder and we'll create a use fetch. And the reason we're doing it, you might be wondering, why in Composable, is because I intend on returning a reactive object. I plan on using views or reactivity as part of this. So, so you have a choice here, right? You might be thinking, oh, well, could I do like a singleton for this, right? Like use fetch equals something. But use fetch is a function, so you're kind of inherently going to be using a factory function for this kind of composable, because ultimately, you're not really trying to share state between your fetches. There are some things we'll share, which we'll see very shortly, but otherwise, yeah. So a couple things. Okay, so here's what we want to export. We know this thing is definitely consistent. So this is an example of something that like really it just sits outside. So API base URL, and I believe we had it already. There. And then actually, for those wondering what that was Raycast's clipboard history. So you can search through it. It's pretty nice. And then, okay, so we got that. And so basically here, I find that people generally tend to include the slash when they're doing like their URLs. So as a result, I'm just going to do a URL that's going to be a string. And then what are we going to return? We're going to return... actually, I don't actually know we mentioned this. We're not going to do too many with types right now. Okay, so this is where then this part kind of comes into play. So we're putting that inside of the use fetch. So we're going to pass it basically the API base URL, although I don't need to do it this way actually. API base URL plus URL. That's what we're appending. This needs to be async because we have an await inside of here. So then we say, okay, throw error. Yep, this is a generic thing, right? If throw an error if the response is not okay. Otherwise, what we're going to do here, and this is where we're going to be more genericized, we're going to return await response. That should do the trick if I read it correctly. Okay, the main other thing I need to do is I do like to do the maybe rougher getter, so I'm going to drop that here of string. Okay, and here I think we have a basic useFetch function. And so the way we can test this is we can go ahead and basically import useFetch from our new composable. And again, let's go ahead and do it like this. Composables, like that. That way it's more consistent. All right, then from here, we now know we no longer need all of this. What we should get is to be able to await useFetch weeks. I believe it was weeks. Oh, is this the only one that had it? Yes, I was right. Okay, weeks, and then I think that's it. I think that's it. Okay, so if this works as intended, where are we using use week? We are currently using it, let's see, it looks like we're using it inside of the planner. So, oh wait, nope, that's using the composable. Where's the fetch week being called? We're calling it, okay, it looks like we're calling it inside of task form modal. Okay, so this is where we'll test it. Server is down, so let's call that. Let me switch branches before I forget. Git checkout 05 solution. Okay, cool. We're up and running. And then if we go ahead and take a look at our task, and then, wait. Oh, task modal, that's what it is. So I need to edit it. Boop. Okay, now something's funky. What
I think you still need to return weeks from your...
So I did not return weeks from it?
When you use the useFetch function, you didn't actually return weeks from that.
Oh, right. So then basically what we need to do then here, well, yes. Right, so we can say I mean, we could say this. Is that what you're saying?
I believe so.
Okay, let's give it a shot. We refresh. We edit the task. What's yelling at me? Probably with access but not defined during instance, base modal. Okay, so something with the weeks is not being defined correctly.
You changed the value that was there.
This one?
Correct.
So weeks of value equals...
That was called something else prior to that?
Was it?
That was being said.
Okay. Last... It was...
Fetched weeks.
It's
just the name of the response, though, right? Was it? Okay.
Yes, isn't that fetch weeks?
It looks identical.
Yeah, so that looks, the signature looks right. So it must be a way that I implemented this that's causing it to not, I mean, easiest thing is just log the response real quick. Clear, refresh. That's it right here. Oh, maybe it's just not. Yeah, so that's being called.
Did we have to go like to ref or to value with the URL that we passed in?
That is a good question. Right now, it is. You're totally right. We did not follow that pattern because the use fetch right now is using a maybe, but it actually, for now, it actually is assuming URL value. It is assuming that. So, but I will make sure this is at least consistent.
I'd point out it's entirely possible that this was broken 3 exercises ago and not realized.
Oh, that is totally true. Yes, this is totally fair. So, I mean, let's see. Where's that console log living? It's living in use week. So, yeah, this is totally fair. Let's see. Well, actually, if anything, we should know. The planner should at least have it. So the planner here. Okay, so we know. Okay, so we know the planner was working right now. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So planners here. Okay, weeks right now is being brought in. Actually, that's kind of interesting. Oh, because it's doing its own fetch here. Okay. So we're going to knock this out. And we're going to see if we can get it to work. Await week store, which we did not import. Oh, use week store, right. And then here, const week store equals use week store. Okay, that's that. Then it freshes the weeks, handle week created. Then this also then needs a week store.fetch weeks. And anything else? Yep, one more. Week store.fetch weeks. Okay. I think that's everything. Yep, that looks good. Okay, it looks like this is fine. So, like you said, there's probably something that's going finicky on the modal right now because we're not doing full refactors. And so there we have an example of kind of a, again, overly simplified use fetch function. Again, if you're going to do this, at least look at like what the Nux team is doing. There's a bunch of people who already have these sort of composable fetch functions that are very, very robust, configurable, handles all the methods, blah, blah, blah. Great patterns. So be sure to check that out.